Last night, GGG dropped a teaser for the upcoming League mechanic for Path of Exile 2's 0.4 update. Now, we already know that the patch is going to be called The Last of the Druids, presumably adding the Druid class to the game, but there's also going to be a new League mechanic called The Fate of the Vaal. Check it out.
I desire more than what this mortal flesh could provide me. And so now, my darling, I am yours.
So this is a very short teaser, but it's quite clear what we're seeing here. This is Atziri in her mortal form before she communed with the beast. And we actually know a lot about Atziri from the lore of Path of Exile 1, that's been in the game for over a decade and has been expanded upon several times with the content additions that came to the game in that decade, things like the Incursion League and Ultimatum League. So firstly, Atziri was the ruler of the Vaal civilization at the time that we see during the time travel phase of Act 3 in Path of Exile 2. She was the last queen of the Vaal, and she held that title right up until the Vaal Cataclysm, also known as the Fall, which brought about the end of the Vaal civilization. Now, whilst Atziri was queen, she learned of a Vaal noble named Zerphi, who had lived to the age of 168 years old. Zerphi was a serial killer who had tortured and murdered 13 victims over a 128-year period, essentially stealing their life force for his own gain to preserve his youth. When he was found dead, it was discovered that his body resembled that of a 20-year-old, and this discovery is essentially the catalyst that caused Atziri to go insane with the desire for immortality and the preservation of her beauty. She tasked her highest-ranking thaumaturge, Doyani, with researching Zerphi's methods of preserving his youth, with the ultimate goal of securing her own immortality, and she did this with brutal ruthlessness. Atziri ordered Doyani to make any effort within the realms of possibility, and to act without fear of question or consequence. And Doyani did just that, pretty much committing the same crimes as Zerphi before him, only this time under the Queen's watch. Countless adolescent Vaal were brought to Doyani for experimentation, and none of them survived. But Doyani's methods were unsuccessful. He was unable to discover how Zerphi had been able to maintain his youth for so long. Following this failure, Atziri's obsession only grew, and she began demanding sacrifices from the Vaal people. Countless Vaal were sent to be sacrificed at her altar every day, and no person was exempt. Atziri promised that the sacrifices would not be in vain, and that she would unlock immortality, not just for herself, but for the entire Vaal civilization. But by this point, it was clear that Atziri had become possessed with the very idea of eternal beauty, and her methods were slowly destroying the Vaal civilization as it stood. Now, at some point following the events of the time travel period of Act 3 in Path of Exile 2, Atziri communes with the beast, and based on the dialogue from Doyani where he mentions that we're too late and Atziri will soon commune with the beast, this is likely the cause of the Vaal Cataclysm, which wipes out all but about 3,000 Vaal people, who eventually assimilate into Atziri civilization, ending the era of the Vaal. And I believe this is what we're seeing here in this mini teaser. This is Atziri in her final mortal moments as the Queen of the Vaal, right before she communes with the beast. A sacrifice of her own humanity that sends her into a nightmare realm, or a crimson realm, and we know a little bit about this realm from pieces of dialogue in Path of Exile. We know that in that realm, she is joined by other Vaal that continuously sacrifice themselves to her over and over again, only to be reborn to repeat the cycle. There's an interesting piece of dialogue from the Trialmaster, who himself was Vaal when he was immortal before he became a servant for Chaos.
The Queen represents an odd island of stability that Chaos cannot comprehend. Almost all events come laden with possibility, but the history of her existence is a single unbroken course. There is no world, real or imagined, where Atziri did not lead our people to ruin. She gazes into a mirror still, somewhere beyond the reach of my master, in a place of crimson madness and nightmare. My master adores the uncertainty of chance outcomes, but he abhors cosmic enigmas with no clear answer, especially when such enigmas seem to possess the power to impress determinism upon the fabric of existence.
The interesting part here is that Chaos, as an entity, is a beyond godlike being that can see all possible outcomes, but the only outcome for Atziri is that she always brings about the end of the Vaal civilization, which suggests that she was perhaps void of choice, and therefore may have been possessed by the beast or another entity and was unable to act on her own merit. This Trialmaster Dialog also mentions Atziri's realm, calling it a place of crimson madness and nightmare, and the fact that Chaos itself cannot see into this realm may suggest that this is a higher power than that of Chaos itself. Now, if I were to take a guess at what this league mechanic may entail, I think we may see a Path of Exile 2 reimagining of Vaal side areas. This is one of the oldest league mechanics in Path of Exile 1, and it's a mechanic that really shows its age whenever you play through one of those areas compared to the newer content. So this would be a fresh opportunity to modernise this type of content in PoE 2. And it could be that whenever we step into one of these areas, we are entering Atziri's Crimson Madness realm. Perhaps it will take some inspiration from Scourge League in Path of Exile 1, where you'd basically flip between a normal map and another dimension. And I think the most exciting thing that may come with this league, of course, is the potential of Atziri as a new pinnacle boss in Path of Exile 2. Atziri in PoE 1 is one of the oldest pinnacle bosses, and that boss even today is quite scary with the moveset that she has. The big flame blasts and the storm calls and the likes. So that could be a really fun boss in PoE 2. And as many others have mentioned already, there's the possibility for the addition of Vaal skill gems to Path of Exile 2. These are kind of like ultimate abilities in PoE 1. They sort of have cooldowns and can only be used by charging them with souls. So we may see something like that coming to PoE 2. And even beyond that, there's stuff like the double corruption altar in the Temple of Immortal, or even Incursion League content itself. Perhaps we may see a blend of Vaal mechanics being modernised together for Path of Exile 2. But that's pretty much it for this one. I just wanted to cover my thoughts on what this teaser might indicate for Path of Exile 2. We only have a short while to wait for the full reveal, that's next week, so all will be revealed then. Thanks for watching this video, and as always, stay tuned and stay safe.